because I've got like 8 things to plug in. So today we're making chicken curry, which means that I'm making rice, which I am doing in a rice maker. So I've already got like that set up. I'm just gonna like literally plug it in and we'll call it a day. So that's one machine. The other machine, like on the other side of the counter, the other machine is going to be a food processor so that I can do the onion really fast because I don't really feel like spending a ton of time dicing onion. At least not today. I usually don't, and it's a finer onion chopper than I am physically capable of accomplishing. So, has sharp, spinny blades. And then you just toss the onion in and it explodes. So, fun tip from your Aunt F, when I am cooking something that involves like a lot of additions to the recipe, where you've got like something going in the pot and then a few minutes later, another few somethings and then another few somethings. I always just combine the ingredients into a bowl ahead of time. And then all I have to do is dump a single bowl at every step of the process. And this one, so I've never made this recipe before. I have no idea what's going to happen. But this kind of has a lot of like little mini steps like that. So I figured I'm just going to be dumping a lot of stuff into a single bowl and going from there. Okay, so here's what I have done so far with my prep. So I'm supposed to take garlic and ginger and basically split it in half and use half of it as like a marinade for the chicken that's going to go in at the end, and the other half to kind of like cook the sauce before the chicken goes in. So this bowl right here is the bowl that's going to get added to the pot. And then in the yellow bowl over there, I'm going to be adding chicken and yogurt to that and letting it sit. And I always cut the ends off my onion so that if you have to cut after that, you have like a nice flat base and you're not chasing your onion around everywhere. So I have a lot of chicken. I'm going to be tossing that into a bowl after I cut it up into strips with some yogurt, which is, it's 5% because that was as close to full fat as I could find that didn't have a flavor. But I could have used even down to like 2% Greek yogurt. So these are just like regular chicken breasts. There's not anything fancy about them. And because we will be, what we're looking for is like little chunks like you would find in a curry. I'm just slicing them up. Recipes almost always tell you like how big of a chunk to make it, as long as you're cooking the sauce like beforehand. So in this case, most of the sauce is actually cooked all the way beforehand, and then the rest of it is kind of just like thickening time or like marinating for the chicken. I don't really care if they're a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. The goal is just to make them a consistent size, whatever size you end up picking. because if they're not consistent, then you'll end up with some that are cooked and some that are not. Anytime you handle raw chicken, for sure, at least rinse your hands, because chicken's gross. So that was garlic, the garlic, the ginger. So like there's a ginger piece right there. The chicken and the yogurt. So I'm just gonna stir it around so that it gets a little bit of a marinade feel to it. And then at the end of the rest of the steps that I haven't done yet, this is all getting dumped in to this pot right here. Cumin. So this recipe calls for cumin seeds. I don't have those, and I don't really feel like using them either. So I just decided not to. Instead, I'm just going to use ground cumin, and because it's probably going to end up with more cumin, I'm using slightly less than the 1 teaspoon that I am supposed to be using. And basically what I think I'm building right now in this little guy is just a ton of spices. And so far it is the masala spice, the turmeric, some salt, and this is coriander. And all I'm missing is a little bit of cayenne or like mild chili powders. So I'm gonna try this one. So there's like so many different spices in this, but the general like concept, right, is pretty simple. You kind of make the sauce, add the chicken, and then it's just gonna hang out for a little bit. And for the most part, it's just spices and more spices that are being added. So the onions are cooking with the cumin. With the cumin. So I'm just trying to get those cooked until they're, actually a little bit translucent. They don't have to be super, super brown, but I definitely want them like good and cooked. And then I think I'm actually done with the ingredients, except for I need a half cup of water. I have no idea if those are done yet. I would usually cook them for a little bit longer just because I'm lame. But I'm pretty ready for the next step, so I'm just gonna do it and we'll see what happens. So next step is to add the ginger and the garlic to the mixture. And cook it for like another 2 minutes. So this is not a very exciting looking pot right now, but there it is. It's pretty white and beige and yellow. So that noise was the rice cooker saying that it's done. So I'm going to unplug it. It has a setting that like keeps stuff warm. But if you leave it on for too long, the bottom kind of ends up burning just because there is a heat element to it, obviously. When I'm adding spices to anything or any kind of dry ingredient, I try and spread it out as much as I can so that there's slightly less stirring to do. It kind of gets it a more even coat, and I don't have to worry about making sure that it mixes really well. Kind of does some of the work for me. Okay, this smells really good. I'm If it tastes as good as it smells right now, then we're golden. Speaking of which, because I added turmeric, it's now pretty yellow. I was thinking maybe with the chili powder it would end up a little bit more red, but it's definitely going to be yellow because the turmeric makes everything turn yellow. And at this point, the whole goal here is to not let anything burn. So I'm just gonna kind of stir periodically, make sure that I don't end up with any crispy bits on the bottom of the pot. Tomato paste is very pasty, guys, so it does not want to come off of your measuring spoons, so fair warning to you guys on that. The only sad thing about using tomato paste is that it comes in, your only option is a can this size, and I've like barely used any of it, so it's kind of a bit of a waste almost. So it is definitely redder now that I have added the tomato paste. So looks like that right now. And that is all of the, pretty much all of the ingredients actually for the spice mix. So everything else is just going to be what's already in with the chicken and the little bit of water that I measured out earlier. So I'm just trying to make sure with this spatula that I get all of the yogurt out of here, or a good portion of the yogurt. It's going to be impossible to get all of it, but the yogurt is kind of the thing that's going to keep the chicken nice and tender. So it's definitely something that I want to keep in the sauce as much as I can. I'll turn the heat down. So this is what it looks like now. Definitely looks more like a curry now that there's chicken in there. I'm kind of glad that I did not add all the chicken because it does, for my preferences anyway, seem a little bit chicken heavy. So the first thing that I changed about this recipe is it calls for chicken thighs, and I'm using chicken breasts. The only difference on that is that chicken breasts tend to get drier when they're cooked than chicken thighs will. So chicken thighs actually are kind of more of a like hearty option if you were going to be like roasting them in the oven. Chicken thighs are probably better. But I'm a little bit picky about my chicken. I don't like it super fatty. So I usually go with chicken breasts because I just prefer them. So the impact that that's going to have to the recipe is that I'm going to want to check these way more carefully and make sure that they're not getting overcooked. And they might actually be cooked in less time than chicken thighs would. So that was substitution kind of number one. Then as I go down the ingredients list, like I said, I used 5% Greek yogurt. I could have gone down to 2%, but that worked out just fine. I minced the ginger. I did not mince it like super, super fine because I was too lazy, and I didn't grate it either because I think you end up with kind of like, I mean, it's basically like liquid with some pulp when you grate it, so I didn't do that. But this works out just fine. I used, so it calls for two yellow onions. I only used one because I was using really big onions, and I don't think I needed two of them. The oil that I used is just canola oil. I totally forgot an ingredient. 1 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. I can probably just add that right now. So, like I said, I'm not paying very much attention. My note-taking skills are obviously suspicious. And this calls for a 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, which doesn't exist in nature. It's like not a thing that you can buy. So instead, I got this 28-ounce can, and I'm just going to use about half of it, like a really precise professional. So the recipe calls for 25 to 30 minutes. I don't think it's going to take that long, honestly, because of the chicken breast. So I am going to check on, cover it, leave it on like a low heat, and I'm going to come back and check on it in another 10 minutes and kind of see where it's at, which should help me figure out if I need another 10 or not. And in the meantime, all right, guys, so it has been about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to check on this. And really what I want to do is I want to take a tiny knife and a piece of chicken and take a look and see if it's cooked through. And it is still, let's see if I can manage to do this without making a mess. So it is still a little bit pink in the middle. So I'm just going to release it. That was a bigger chunk. I know I was preaching on equality of size and shape earlier. I'm really bad at it, so I just go with a few tough, tiny pieces, I guess. But I don't think that has another 10 minutes in it, so I am going to set a timer for another 5 and then check again. It looks like that at the moment. Finished product looks like that, which to me looks exactly like it is supposed to, so that's encouraging. That's really good. Yeah, I would totally make this again. It's still a little bit hot though, so I don't recommend eating it, immediately after you pull it out of the pot. But I wanted to prove to you guys that I didn't poison myself. And there we go. That's it. So thanks for tuning in. This has been Cooking with Aunt Fuckhead, the chicken curry episode. Thanks, and see you guys later.